The big question here on Friday is the NWSL following a smart expansion plan. News recently came out that Denver will be the 16th NWSL franchise for a record expansion fee of $110 million. Can you believe it, Jason?
No, I mean yes, because it all these news outlets are saying it. I do think it's worth asking how real that number is.
How high did your eyebrows go when you read the headline of 110 million?
Yeah, it certainly is a jump, more than double the previous record, which
Mm-hmm.
was 53 million that Bay FC and Boss Nation, which is not going to be their name. They keep putting out this stuff about how they're doing market research and talking to people after they screwed up and said their name was Boss Nation, and everybody went, "What? What are you talking about?"
After all that market research, they're going to be called Boss Country or something like that.
I mean, they said something about, oh, look, all the balls, and there are balls, and we have balls, but are there balls? Everybody's got balls, and it was like, what are we doing here with this marketing, Boss Nation? But anyway,
Hey, if I can
53.
collect, checks for that sort of Q&A or research panels, sign me up if that's the
Right.
results that are the bar that's required there.
I will say this: I am available to consult
Yes,
American
exactly.
soccer
That's the word I was
clubs.
looking for. Consulting.
I'm available to consult. Reach out. Morningkickaround at gmail.com is one way to get in touch with me. I would say that so you can be, I think, justifiably super positive about news like this. If you are a women's soccer fan, if you're an NWSL backer, you can look at this and go, look at this. The league is growing, incredible numbers, $110 million. Somebody's willing to pay that to expand in this league. Look at how great things are going. You could do that. You could also be a cynic fairly, justifiably, and go, is this really how much they're going to pay? They're going to pay a little bit now, a little bit later. Are they ultimately going to get to the 110? Are they really going to end up paying that whole chunk to NWSL to expand this league after what we saw with Bay FC and Boss Nation? By the way, are those two teams going to pay $53 million? And how quickly are they going to pay? And all these things, because it benefits. I mean, to be the ultimate cynic here, you don't want to talk about MLS. People say this stuff about MLS all the time, right? Number one, is MLS a is it a situation where the expansion fees are being used to pay back the older owners, and we've got a pyramid scheme like vibe happening? Now, I think the difference between a pyramid scheme and this, generally speaking, is that in a pyramid scheme, you're not telling your investors that you're doing it. You're not like, hey, we're going to go get money from somebody else to pay you, and that's your growth on your investment. That's
Got
not
to get in
usually
early,
how.
Jason. Got to get in early. Low fees, and you get
Yeah,
paid back by the new guys.
I don't think Bernie Madoff was telling everybody, hey, I'm going to go get some more money from somebody else, and I'm going to pay you back with that money. And there's not actually any growth in the investment. It's just me paying older investors with newer money, and we just keep it going forever. I mean, again, is this the same kind of thing though? Is this juicing the numbers to make the league look better, to bring up the value of everybody? Is it a pump and not dump? Because I don't think anybody's jumping out of the boat yet. But is this like building up the money, the valuations to make everybody look good, right? To make everybody else in the league, all those older owners who have been around, and you can look at the investment that has come from other owners who have been around for what's happening in Kansas City, right? They built a soccer stadium for women's soccer. They had the final there this past season. An incredible achievement for women's soccer, something that I don't know that we ever thought we would see. And it's a great step forward. How much does it benefit the owners of Kansas City Current that somebody's coming in for the league price of $110 million, and then Michelle Kang and the money she's putting in to the Washington Spirit women's soccer, and it kind of, and even I also think that it's possible. I mean, as long as you're not being super anti-capitalism, unless if you want to go to that end of the spectrum, that's great. That's on you. I think it's possible to just kind of look at this and go, this is how it works, right? Who is suffering here? Like if it's not actually $110 million, who suffers in this situation if they are kind of bluffing about the numbers, Rob? I don't
I
know.
guess maybe future investors that think that they're gonna have to like next time they have expansion, is it going to be 250,000? But I guess you're raising that bar of like what is expected
Well,
to be able
so
to join this league, and it is the biggest expansion layout for any women's sports team in the United States
right,
too. On top of it, so
right.
maybe it's just raising the bar, but you'd think it's a profile raising
Well,
attempt.
but okay, and that would be the justification if it's not real. Like if it's a little bit of a fib and a bluff and we're puffing up the numbers, the argument would be, well, yes, but it brings attention to women's soccer, it brings further investment into women's soccer, we benefit from that. But Nate said when the bubble pops, they'll have to focus on the quality of the league. Sure. And also Nate says the fan is suffering, right? The owners rely on them to make money rather than putting an attractive product out. I think that is fair if you believe that it is a zero-sum game for the quality of the play in women's soccer and the expansion fees that these teams are paying, right? And probably the same thing for MLS, right? If you want to go down that road, you could say, well, if somebody's spending $500 million on an MLS expansion team, or someone's spending $110 million on an NWSL team, that's less money to put into the product, which is the playing quality, right? The players and paying the players, right? And we can absolutely go in a labor solidarity direction on this, Rob, and say, why is the league charging $110 million for an expansion fee instead of asking its owners to pay the players more money? But at the same time, we have been sold on the idea that the NWSL salaries have gone up dramatically in the last couple of years, bringing a better quality of life to the players, which would then, or you could argue, a better quality of play if you have salaries that are at least competitive or somewhat sometimes better than what you could get in other leagues. But of course, we started from basically zero with women's soccer. Right? We started from basically we're not paying them anything. You're lucky to be a pro, and you also get to be treated like crap by your coaches because you're lucky to be a pro. So it's all this relative swing of what is fair, justified, right, good for soccer in America. Because you could also argue, despite what Nate is saying, and I get it, I get the emotions of it. You could also argue this league doesn't exist. The teams that exist wouldn't exist. The investment that has happened wouldn't exist if not for people like, in this case, the group in Denver, which is, I think, led by some investment banker or Michelle Kang or anybody else. And maybe they do have principled reasons for investing, but you could say, as business people, they're enticed to this because of the stuff we're talking about, because the valuations are going up, because the expansion fees look pretty, because there is more attention on the game. And that if you just said, well, put the money in the product, they would not see that immediate return justifying their investment. It's all very cynical. It's all very cynical, Rob.
This Denver bid backed by IMA Financial Group CEO Robert Cohen. And then there's a number of other interesting names involved too. Former Obama administration official Ben Hubbard, who's the CEO of Denver-based insurance company Parasil. Former USL executive Tom Dunmore, back from his trip or side quest into the cricket league.
Oh,
FOS CEO.
I don't think Tom's done with cricket. I think he's just part of both things. So, knowing Tom
Uh,
Dunmore.
and then CEO Nicole Galeros, and then a former NWSL player, Jordan Angeli. So three different CEOs in this bid backing. So I guess you could see why they're in the top price sort of market. If it's three out of the five main contributors are CEOs of financial and insurance companies.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, again, this is where sports are, and this is where women's sports are, and there's this catch-22 issue with women's sports in particular, and it's soccer. It's a soccer thing in America too, right? Like, are we as beggars, as soccer fans in America, as fans of a sport in a country that has largely treated that sport as a second-class citizen of sports, as a foreign sport, as a sport not to care about because we've got other things going on and we're not great at soccer. Why would we want to engage? Let the English have it. As those kind of fans, or those people, we kind of wrestle with this, which is more than just being a sports fan. It's not just that straight kind of relationship. I have my team, I have my club, I support them. That's it. it's all wrapped up in our identity as Americans and our relationship to soccer. Can we, as those beggars, be choosers when it comes to how this happens? Can we say, hey, this is the wrong way to do it? When
I think there's
the
plenty of us
other
saying that, but what impact can we have?
what's the alternative? That it doesn't happen at all? Is that better? So 16 teams now in the NWSL.
That's a really nice league number. I gotta say,
It
16
is,
nice.
and but can you imagine that the NWSL is going to put the full brakes on expansion at this point, even though it might be smart?
Okay, so if expansion prices in 2020, Angel City, San Diego, and Utah, obviously there's a caveat on the Utah one, but that was 2 million just 5 years ago and went to 53 last year for two different teams and then 110. So if there's that amount of, a spike, you can't imagine like this isn't the high point is not this team.
No, probably not. Right. And again, this is the problem that critics of MLS and their expansion path and the way that they've handled their business and the idea that this is a pyramid scheme on some level have. It is this notion that you are just chasing fees, that the business is more about finding the next expansion ownership group than it is about putting a quality product on the field or building soccer for soccer's sake. And I'm both a romantic in the sense that I say trust the game. The game is a beautiful thing. We should be investing. I want MLS to do things right. But I'm also enough of a real world cynic, an American who lives in the 21st century during late stage capitalism, to understand that probably none of this happens if billionaires or 100 millionaires don't see value in it beyond soccer is a pretty game.
So this Denver bid beat out two other finalists, Cleveland and Cincinnati. And with this whole will the price rise up? Would you believe a city like Cleveland or Cincinnati or the backers of those bids can one up those numbers? I mean, that seems like wild that those cities would put that kind of layout out there.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess it all kind of depends on how this goes for Denver. And we have not gotten into the details on the Denver bid and what they do have lined up and what they don't. And closer watchers of the NWSL, people that I follow on Blue Sky and things will say, we'd love to know where this money is going. Love to know what the infrastructure plan is. And I do think that there are NDAs and all kinds of things in play that make it difficult for us to get details. Yeah. But that is certainly a question. And if you are a backer of the NWSL, if you're a supporter of the NWSL, if you have a club or you want the league to succeed, you will have a little trepidation when something like this happens. Because as Nate said in the chat, it feels bubblish. It feels like something that could burst, that could pop, and that could bring everybody down if it doesn't go well. If Denver is spending $110 million, actually spending $110 million on an expansion fee, right? And that's ahead of all the other stuff they have to spend on.
That's a lot of money that doesn't go on the field.
It's a big red number on the books. And then how are you making that back? And at what point is it, hey, this is great, we're just going to stick around and be here forever because that's what we want. That's what we need. We need clubs that will last. We have to stop with clubs coming and going all the time, clubs moving around. Enough with that already. We don't grow the game through that. We don't grow the game through relocation or clubs folding. So if this is a bad calculation, and there's smart people involved, but if this is a bad calculation, it could be trouble for everybody, not just Denver.
We shall see. We shall see. I think that about does it for Friday's morning kick around. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Nate, for the comments and for being here each and every day with Jason and myself. Thank you, Jenny, for behind the scenes production. If you haven't already, morning kick around, 2 words on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. All I got to say before we get out of here, really excited for Liverpool, Manchester United. Do you have any score predictions before we leave, Jason?
4-0. Liverpool over United.
4-0. And does Amram keep his job after a 4-0 drubbing?
Yes, he will have a job. He can't. I don't think you can justify firing. Well, I guess that's an embarrassment, and it doesn't matter. And that's your rival, and it sucks. But I'm going to say yes. I just don't think they can pull the plug this early. It would be ridiculous.
The United fans that I know, very reactive, already want him gone, at least a couple of them. But yeah, the closest soccer bar to my house is the Motor City Red Devils hangout. So more often than not, when I go out and leave the house for a soccer game, I'm surrounded by those United guys, and some of them very itchy trigger fingers when it comes to the coach. But I mean, I guess what's his face? The previous coach survived what, the 7-1 or the 7-0. He lived on
Yeah.
beyond that, so you're probably right with Amram to say. Thank you once again, and we shall see you on Monday for the next episode of Morning Kick Around. Until then, enjoy your soccer.